My name is Sarah. I'm 28 years old, and the night my own family treated me like an ATM with a heartbeat, I realized love in this house was only real when the payment cleared. But that night, the payment failed. Before I tell you what happened next, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from, because someone out there might need this story tonight. Someone out there might be bleeding money for people who wouldn't bleed a single tear for them. It was supposed to be a quiet Sunday, October 15th. I remember because I'd circled it on my calendar with a heart, thinking maybe this time would be different. Maybe this time they'd actually want me there, not just my wallet. I'd cook dinner for everyone, real food, the kind that takes time and heart. Beef Wellington, because that's what Dad used to say was his favorite before he started treating me like a stranger who happened to share his last name. I even brought the wine I couldn't afford, that $40 bottle of Malbec, hoping maybe they'd bring kindness I couldn't buy. The kitchen smelled like home. You know that smell, when garlic and rosemary dance together and fill every corner with warmth? For 30 minutes while I was plating everything, I actually felt like their daughter again. Not their bank account, not their problem solver. Just Sarah, who wanted to eat dinner with her family. Mom smiled the way people do when they're being polite to strangers. That careful smile that doesn't reach the eyes. My brother Jake scrolled through his phone like I wasn't even there, like the food had just magically appeared. My father just asked if I'd sent that money yet. Not, "How are you, honey?" Not, "Thank you for cooking." Just, "Did you send that money yet?" That should have been my first warning. But I was still hoping, still believing that somewhere underneath all this transactional bullshit, my family actually loved me. Then it happened. I asked about the reunion, just to feel included, just to be part of something that didn't involve my credit score or my bank balance. "So, what time should I be there next weekend for the reunion?" My brother looked up from his phone for the first time all evening. His eyes were cold, like looking at a debt collector who'd overstayed their welcome. "You're not family. Don't show up." Just like that. 6 words that cut deeper than any knife ever could. The table laughed. My father slapped his knee like Jake had just told the funniest joke he'd ever heard. My mother tried not to smile, but I saw it. I saw that little twitch at the corner of her mouth, like she was fighting back laughter. And I realized, sitting there with my untouched Wellington getting cold, maybe love had a price tag all along, and I'd already overpaid. The laughter echoed in my ears like broken glass. Each chuckle felt like another nail in the coffin of whatever relationship I thought we had. Because in that moment, I understood something that should have been obvious years ago. I wasn't their daughter. I was their emergency fund with feelings. I went home with my lasagna untouched. Well, not lasagna. The Wellington I'd spent 3 hours making. But it didn't matter what it was anymore. It was just another rejected offering to gods who would never be satisfied. The house was quiet, too quiet. You know that kind of silence that feels like punishment? When even the walls seem to be judging you for being stupid enough to hope? That was my Sunday night. No calls, no messages asking if I got home safe. No thanks for dinner. Just that crushing silence that confirmed what I'd been too afraid to admit. I sat on my couch, still in the dress I'd picked out specially. The blue one Mom used to say brought out my eyes, and I finally let myself cry. Not the pretty tears you see in movies, the ugly, gut-wrenching sobs that come from somewhere so deep you didn't even know it existed. Then, 4 days later, a message. Thursday morning, 7:30 a.m. Jake's contact lighting up my phone screen like a bad omen. Hey, weird question. Did your bank block the transfer? The loan payment didn't go through. Not, hey sis, how are you? Not, sorry about Sunday. Just straight to business. Because that's all I'd ever been to them. Business. My fingers stopped shaking long enough to type 4 words. Not family, not funded. And for the first time in my adult life, I meant it. They came pounding at my door before sunrise, 5:43 a.m. on a Friday. I know because I was staring at the ceiling. Hadn't slept in 2 days since sending that text. Boom, boom, boom. My father's rhythm, the same way he used to knock when I was 16 and came home past curfew. My brother's temper bleeding through the wood grain. Sarah, open this door right now. But I didn't move. I lay there in my bed, listening to them bang and shout, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace, the kind of peace that comes from finally saying no to people who never learned to take no for an answer. When I didn't open, the calls began. First, Dad. Be reasonable, Sarah. You're being dramatic. Then Mom. Honey, we're family. Family helps family. Then Jake. You're being a selfish bitch, and you know it. Ah, there it was. The real Jake. The one who only surfaced when his wallet was empty and his pride was hurt. 27 calls in 3 hours. 27 attempts to guilt me back into being their personal ATM. But when you stop bleeding for people who fed on your kindness, they start calling you cruel. They start calling you names that would make strangers blush. By noon, the voicemails were getting creative. You'll regret this. Family is forever, whether you like it or not. We know where you work. That last one made my blood run cold because I realized something else about my family that day. They weren't just financial predators. They were bullies, and bullies don't stop until someone stops them. A few days later, a call came from a lawyer's office. Hamilton Rodriguez and Associates. I almost didn't answer because unknown numbers had started to scare me. Ma'am, we're confirming your co-signature on a $10,000 business loan for your brother, Jake Morrison. The world stopped spinning. I'm sorry, what? The loan for Morrison Brothers Construction. Your signature is on file as the co-signer. The payment is 60 days overdue, and we're beginning collection proceedings. Morrison Brothers Construction. Jake's fantasy business that existed only in his head and apparently on legal documents I'd never seen. I froze. My hands went numb. My signature, they described it perfectly. Too perfectly. The way I loop my S, the way I cross my R's. They'd not only drained my wallet for years, they'd stolen my name. They'd forged my signature on a loan I never knew existed for a business that never existed. Ma'am, are you there? I I never signed anything. I never agreed to co-sign anything. The silence on the other end told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't the first time they'd heard those words. We'll need you to come in. Bring identification and any documentation you have. If this is fraud, we need to file a police report. Fraud. The word hit me like a physical blow. My own brother had committed fraud using my identity. My own family had turned me into a criminal without my knowledge. I hung up and immediately called my bank. The sweet-voiced representative confirmed my worst fears. There were 3 other loans I'd supposedly co-signed. Total amount, $37,000. All overdue, all destroying my credit score day by day. Jake hadn't just stolen my money. He'd stolen my future, my ability to buy a house, get a decent car, maybe even rent an apartment in a better neighborhood. He'd sold my financial future for his pipe dreams, and my parents had probably watched him do it. When did I supposedly sign these? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Let's see. The first one was 18 months ago. Family dinner at your parents' house, according to the location data. Family dinner. I remembered that night. Mom had made her famous pot roast. Dad had actually hugged me goodbye. Jake had been unusually nice, even helped clear the table. They'd drugged me with kindness and robbed me blind. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with every receipt, every message, every wound printed in black and white, bank statements going back 3 years, text messages begging for just this once help, photos of checks I'd written with shaking hands and a guilty conscience, the paper trail of my own financial murder laid out like evidence in a courtroom. I did the math. $63,000. $63,000 over 3 years. Money for emergencies that were always conveniently Jake's fault. Money for rent that somehow never got paid to actual landlords. Money for groceries that fed everyone but me. I'd been funding their lives while barely surviving my own. But the forged signatures, that was different. That wasn't just being a pushover. That was being the victim of a crime. And for the first time in my life, I was going to treat it like one. I called the lawyer back first. I want to file a police report, and I want to press charges. Are you sure? This is family we're talking about. No, I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. Family wouldn't forge my signature. Family wouldn't steal my identity. These are criminals who happen to share my DNA. Then I sent the cease and desist letter my lawyer helped me draft. 3 pages of legal language that basically said, stay away from me, stop contacting me, and if you come near me again, you'll be dealing with more than just hurt feelings. For once, I wasn't fixing their mess. I was protecting myself from their mess. I was choosing Sarah for the first time in my adult life. The return receipt came back signed. They'd gotten it. They knew I meant business, and for the first time in months, I slept through the night. Grandma Rose called 3 days later, 86 years old and sharper than anyone half her age. She'd heard about the family drama. That's what Mom was calling fraud, apparently. Drama. They're painting you as the villain, she said without preamble. Grandma never wasted words. I know. Good. You should know. They'll call it betrayal when you finally set boundaries. They'll call you selfish when you stop being their personal bank. They'll call you heartless when you start having a heart for yourself. Her voice was steady, matter of fact. Like she'd seen this movie before and knew how it ended. But here's what they won't tell you, baby girl. Peace isn't the absence of family. It's the presence of boundaries. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is love someone from a distance far enough away that they can't hurt you anymore. She was right. She was always right. Grandma Rose had watched her own children turn into people she didn't recognize, watched them prioritize money over relationships, watched them treat love like a transaction. They'll come crawling back when they need something, she warned, and they'll use all the right words. We're sorry. We miss you. We didn't mean it. But watch their actions, not their words. People show you who they are when they think you're not paying attention. I was paying attention now, finally, brutally, completely paying attention. The police report was filed. The investigation was ongoing. My credit was slowly being repaired, one fraudulent loan at a time. And for the first time in 3 years, my bank account wasn't bleeding money for people who wouldn't bleed tears for me. I was learning what it felt like to be my own priority. But let me tell you how it started, because this didn't happen overnight. This was years in the making, years of small compromises that led to one massive betrayal. It started when I was 19 and Jake needed help with his rent. Just $200, he said. just this once. I was working 2 part-time jobs and going to community college, but family comes first, right? That's what they drilled into my head since childhood. Then it was mom needing help with groceries, dad's car breaking down, Jake's security deposit for a new apartment. Always just this once. Always just until payday. Always with promises that this was the last time. But here's the thing about financial abuse. And yes, that's what it was, even though I didn't have a name for it then. It's gradual. It's like being slowly poisoned, one small dose at a time until you don't even realize you're dying. By the time I was 25, I was making decent money as a bookkeeper. Ironic, right? I could balance everyone else's books, but my own family was bankrupting me. And every time I tried to say no, every time I tried to establish a boundary, I got the guilt trip. After everything we've done for you, family takes care of family. Don't you love us? They turned love into a weapon and used it against me for years. But the night Jake said I wasn't family, that was the night the spell broke. That was the night I realized something crucial. People who treat you like an ATM don't get to claim family privileges. People who only call when they need money don't get to act hurt when the bank finally closes. I started seeing a therapist after the police report. Dr. Martinez, a tiny woman with the biggest heart and the sharpest insights I'd ever encountered. She taught me words I'd never heard before: financial abuse, parentification, trauma bonding. She taught me that my family had trained me from childhood to believe that my value was tied to my usefulness. That love was something I had to earn and re-earn constantly through financial sacrifice. That saying no made me a bad person. Sarah, she said during our 5th session, you've been programmed to be their personal ATM. But here's what they didn't count on. ATMs have daily withdrawal limits, and yours has finally been reached. The breakthrough came during session 7. Dr. Martinez asked me a simple question that shattered everything I thought I knew about my family. When was the last time one of them asked how you were doing without immediately following it up with a request for money? I sat there for 10 full minutes, searching my memory. 10 minutes of silence while I realized the answer was never. Not once in my adult life had any of them asked about my well-being without an ulterior motive. That's when I understood. I hadn't lost my family when I set boundaries. I'd simply stopped pretending we were a family in the first place. 3 weeks after the cease and desist letter, they violated it. Of course they did. People who don't respect boundaries aren't suddenly going to respect legal documents. Mom showed up at my work, tears in her eyes, trembling hands, the whole performance. My coworkers were staring, and I could feel the judgment radiating from every direction. In their minds, what kind of monster makes their own mother cry in public? Sarah, honey, please, we need to talk. I have nothing to say to you, and you're violating a legal order by being here. Don't be dramatic. I'm your mother. There it was, the magic word they thought trumped everything else. Mother. Like that title gave her permission to destroy my credit, steal my identity, and treat me like a human piggy bank. A mother wouldn't forge her daughter's signature on loan documents. Her face went white. The tears stopped like someone had flipped a switch. You don't understand. Jake was in trouble. We were trying to help him. By destroying me? We thought you'd understand. We thought you'd want to help. Help and fraud are different things. Help involves consent. Fraud involves felonies. I walked away, left her standing there in the lobby of my office building, looking like the victim she'd spent years pretending to be. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I'd finally learned the difference between actual tears and crocodile tears. My phone started buzzing before I even got back to my desk. Jake, of course. What the hell is wrong with you? Making mom cry like that? What's wrong with me? I'm not the one who commits identity theft. It's not identity theft when it's family. And there it was, the fundamental disconnect. In their minds, being related gave them permission to commit crimes against me. Family was a license to steal, lie, and manipulate without consequences. Actually, it's especially identity theft when it's family, because family is supposed to protect each other, not prey on each other. You're being ridiculous. It's not that serious. Tell that to my credit score. Tell that to the collection agencies calling me about loans I never signed. Tell that to the lawyer who explained what conspiracy to commit fraud means. The line went quiet. For the first time in our lives, Jake didn't have a comeback. Because for the first time in our lives, there were actual consequences for his actions. Look, he said finally, his voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. Maybe we can work something out. Maybe we can fix this. The only thing that's going to be fixed is my credit report once the court declares those loans fraudulent. And the only people who need to work something out are you and your lawyer. I hung up, and for the first time in my life, I had the last word with my brother. The months that followed were the hardest and the best of my life. Hard because I was learning how to exist without the constant crisis of my family's drama. Best because I was learning how to exist without the constant crisis of my family's drama. Dr. Martinez helped me understand something profound. I'd been addicted to their chaos, addicted to being needed, even if that need was destroying me. I'd confused their desperation with love, their crisis with connection. You've been a rescuer your whole life, she explained. But rescuers don't actually rescue anyone. They just enable the drowning person to keep making bad decisions because they know someone will always throw them a life preserver. I started setting small boundaries with other people too, saying no to overtime I didn't want, declining social invitations that felt obligatory rather than enjoyable, choosing what I wanted to eat instead of just going along with whatever everyone else preferred. It sounds silly, but learning to choose my own lunch was revolutionary. For 28 years, I'd been so focused on keeping everyone else happy that I'd forgotten I had preferences of my own. The legal case moved slowly, as legal cases do, but my credit score started improving almost immediately once I filed the fraud reports. Turns out, when you're not actually responsible for loans you never signed, the credit agencies are pretty quick to remove them from your report. I started saving money for the first time in my adult life. Real money, in a savings account that only I had access to. Every month, watching that balance grow instead of shrink felt like a small miracle. 6 months after cutting contact, Grandma Rose passed away. 96 years old, died peacefully in her sleep. I went to the funeral, of course. She'd been the only one who understood what I was going through. My family was there, looking at me like I was a stranger. Or maybe I was looking at them like they were strangers. It's hard to tell when you finally see people clearly after years of looking at them through the fog of obligation and guilt. Jake had lost weight, dark circles under his eyes. Mom looked older, more fragile. Dad just looked angry. They didn't approach me, and I didn't approach them. We existed in the same space for 2 hours without acknowledging each other's existence. But after the service, after most people had left, Mom cornered me by Grandma's casket. She would have wanted us to reconcile, she said. I looked down at Grandma Rose, peaceful in her burgundy dress with the pearl necklace I'd given her for her 90th birthday. No, I said quietly. She would have wanted you to stop stealing from me. She would have wanted you to apologize instead of trying to manipulate me into forgiveness I haven't offered and you haven't earned. We're still family, Sarah. There it was again. The magic word that was supposed to erase years of financial abuse and betrayal. I looked at my mother, really looked at her, and saw a stranger who happened to share my DNA. No, I said. Family doesn't forge signatures. Family doesn't steal identities. Family doesn't treat love like a transaction. You're not my family. You're people who used to have access to me, and that access has been permanently revoked. So when they texted again 6 months later, saying, "We're still family," I didn't argue. I didn't respond at all. Because the truth is, arguing with people who refuse to see reality is just another way of letting them steal your energy. Love that demands payment isn't love, it's debt. And for the first time in my life, I'm finally paid in peace. I'm not telling you this story for sympathy. I'm telling you this story as a warning. If you have people in your life who only contact you when they need something, if you have family who treats your bank account like their personal emergency fund, if you have loved ones who make you feel guilty for having boundaries, please, please listen to me. You are not an ATM with a heartbeat. You are not a human credit card. You are not responsible for funding other people's poor decisions, even if those people raised you, even if those people claim to love you, even if those people share your last name. Real family builds you up. Real love doesn't come with a price tag. Real relationships are built on mutual respect, not financial transactions. It's been a year now since I walked away. A year since I chose myself for the first time in my adult life. My savings account has a 5-figure balance. My credit score is in the excellent range. I sleep through the night without wondering what crisis will wake me up the next morning. I bought a house, a real house, with a mortgage in my name only, and a front door they'll never have a key to. I painted the walls colors I actually like instead of safe, neutral tones that wouldn't offend anyone. I planted a garden because I wanted to, not because someone guilted me into it. And yes, sometimes I miss them. I miss the idea of them anyway. I miss having a family, even if that family was slowly killing me financially and emotionally. Humans are wired for connection, and cutting off toxic family members doesn't make you immune to that wiring. But missing someone and allowing them back into your life are two different things. I can miss the parents I wished I had while protecting myself from the parents I actually had. Dr. Martinez taught me something else. Grief isn't just for death. Sometimes you have to grieve the living. Sometimes you have to mourn relationships that are still technically alive, but have been dead to you for years. I grieved my family. I grieved the mother who chose my brother's lies over my truth. I grieved the father who saw me as a solution to problems I didn't create. I grieved the brother who sold my financial future for his temporary comfort. But most of all, I grieved the version of myself who thought love was supposed to hurt, who thought sacrifice meant suffering, who thought family meant funding everyone else's life while barely surviving my own. That girl is gone now. She died the night Jake said I wasn't family, and someone stronger was born from her ashes. Someone who knows that the most loving thing you can sometimes do is love someone from a distance. Someone who understands that boundaries aren't walls. They're bridges that only let the right people cross. If you're listening to this and recognizing yourself in my story, if you're feeling that familiar knot in your stomach because you have your own Jake, your own parents who see you as a bank instead of a daughter, your own family who confuses need with love, please know this: you deserve better. You deserve relationships built on mutual respect, not financial dependency. You deserve love that doesn't require payment plans. You deserve family who celebrates your success instead of treating it like their inheritance. And if they can't give you that, if they refuse to see you as anything more than a human ATM, then maybe it's time to close the bank. Maybe it's time to choose yourself. Because love that demands payment isn't love, it's debt. And the interest rates on that kind of debt will bankrupt your soul if you let them. So don't let them. Choose yourself. Set the boundaries. File the police reports if you have to. Walk away if that's what it takes. Because somewhere out there is the family you actually deserve. The friends who become chosen family. The community that builds you up instead of bleeding you dry. The relationships that give as much as they take. But you'll never find them if you're too busy funding the people who see you as a transaction instead of a person. The payment has failed. The bank is closed. And for the first time in my life, I'm finally, truly free. That's my story. That's my truth. And if it helps even one person realize they're worth more than their bank account balance, then every painful word was worth sharing. Thanks for listening. And remember, hit like if this resonated with you. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this, and comment where you're watching from because I read every single one. Most importantly, remember that you are not an ATM with a heartbeat. You are a human being who deserves love without price tags, family without fraud, and relationships without debt. The payment has failed, and that's the best thing that ever happened to me.